Welcome to the University of Michigan Dentistry Podcast Series, promoting oral health care worldwide.
Good morning, everybody. I was really tempted to join you today dressed as Lady Gaga, because I thought that would really get the morning going, but I decided that probably wasn't the best professional image to share with you. So I want to thank you all for being here with me today, for Wendy asking me over a year ago to attend this conference. She's a very bright woman. She asked me in a year in advance so that my schedule could be cleared so I could be here with you today. So like Jackie said and several other speakers, Kathleen's speech was awesome. You can really feel the energy in this room, and I'm going to work with that a little bit today. So even though you heard that fancy description of my professional pathway, I'm going to share the real side of Ann Battrell. And Jackie, don't you make any comments. So I know that when you all came here today, you probably walked in those doors in the back with a lot on your mind. You might have boyfriend problems. Yeah, I can hear the little giggles in the room. For the guys in the room, you might have some girlfriend problems. You might be thinking about school. You might be thinking about clinic. You might be thinking about an upcoming national board. So I'm going to ask you to leave all that behind today, all of it. Really be here with me and let it all go. But most importantly, what I want you to do is to listen with me, with your heart, and not your head. So before we launch into this, I want everybody to join with me in saying hello to those people who are in the other room and aren't here with us. So 1, 2, 3, hi guys, we miss you. If you have a question, come running in the door, we'll take it. So part of my background, if you can head back to the slide, one thing I want you to know about me is I am a meditator. I am a yogini, and this is the single thing in my life that keeps me sane. And the 37 people that work with me in Chicago are really happy about this, because when Ann goes off, life gets tough. So what I know in a conference this large in lives of students is that you've got a lot going on. So we're going to talk about this change being the essence of your life, and to spend your time with me today really surrendering and just giving it all up, to think about those opportunities that are going to be surrounding you every day of your professional career. So we're going to do a really short meditation process. So all those negative loops that go on in your head all day long, you know how you listen to your own chatter over time? All that negative looping, that's going to go away, because I really believe we are all energy beings, and what we focus our energy on begins to grow in our life. So I want feet on the floor. Put your papers down. Kind of settle your butt in the chair. In yoga, it's really hilarious when they tell you to pull your butt cheeks apart, feel your sit bones, and sit in the chair. It's kind of cool if you want to try it. It'll get your morning going. So just kind of wiggle your shoulders with me for a minute. Close your eyes. And take a really deep, giant breath in. Hold it for just a second. Now gently blow it out. Let your shoulders come all the way down. And let that TMJ relax. See how I know those? Now one more time. Big giant breath in. Hold it. Let the negative thoughts go. Blow it out and surrender. Now, very slowly open your eyes and notice how the energy in the room shifted. Because you're here. You're here with your heart. I have a 4-year-old grandson and a 2-year-old granddaughter who is a hellion. And she absolutely knows how to drive her brother insane. She's figured it out at 2. So when Carter has a meltdown, goes into absolute meltdown, I literally taught him. I said, Carter, when Piper is driving you crazy and you're crying really hard, take a big, giant breath and let it go, and your heart will feel all better. And he now does that on a repeated basis. And my daughter says, you're a freak, Mom. You are a freak. Because, of course, she doesn't do any of it because I'm her mother. You know how that goes. So whenever you're in school, when you're in that stressed out mode, just remember, let it all go and surrender. So where are we going to go today? I'm hoping to share with you some shift in perspectives about why you're here, why you chose dental hygiene. We're going to talk a little bit about what's happening in healthcare. Certainly, as we've all watched TV and seen the political ads, healthcare is in the forefront of many people's concepts and ideas and actual vote in just a few days. We're going to talk also a little bit about this professional marketplace that you are about to enter. And we are going to spend some time talking about your career and what your choices are going to be. So the first thought I want you to think about in your head is what if? What if is a really important question, an important paradigm for you to look at your life. You know how when somebody comes up to you and asks you a question about, can you do this? Or how about if we do that? Very often our natural tendency is to first think no, and to think about why you can't do something. I really work with myself on a daily basis to say, what if? So what might happen to us? And what is going to become of our profession? And then what's going to happen to us as individuals? So we're going to look at those types of questions today. So a bit about me that's reality-based, not necessarily what you just heard in that professional description. So in 1977, I was 17 years old. I grew up in rural Illinois, and I got to go to Chicago. So you can imagine, I had the Farrah Fawcett hairdo going on, and I was like, woohoo, I am in downtown Chicago. I'm with medical students, law students, dental students, and I was having a rockin' good time. I was the quintessential brat of the freshman dental hygiene class. Are any of my fellow colleagues here with me that might be that very young freshman student who really doesn't have a clue what she's doing in dental hygiene school, and you say, how did I get here? Like, what the heck happened to me? Dan, if you'll go back to that slide for me. So I entered Northwestern University, and I was struggling. I was majorly struggling as a freshman dental hygiene student. And there were about 5 of us in the class that we got this nickname called the Bottom 5. And it was the worst group of freshman students that every faculty member dreads getting in clinic. And I was one of those. I was really having a hard time getting it all together. But what happened to me was the faculty member who was assigned to the Bottom 5 was awesome. And she literally sat with me in clinic for days and days and days and watched what I was doing as tears were streaming down my face because I felt like the biggest loser in the class. I should have coined that phrase for that TV show. I could be really wealthy right now. So she literally sat with me and said, Battrell, where did you get that grasp? And it took her all that time to figure out that I was holding the instrument wrong. No one caught it, that I had the wrong grasp. But that mentoring intervention she did with me to correct all that made a huge difference in my professional life. And she's still in my life today. Her name is Janice Keating. She works for Sonicare. And she literally, I say to her now, if you hadn't stepped in and did what you did for me, I would definitely not be where I am today. So the next chapter really took off quickly. Once I figured out that grasp and that clinical skill set that I needed as a hygiene student, I took off very, very quickly. We did a lot of student peer teaching at Northwestern where we had to get in groups and learn how to describe that skill set to our peers. That created the seed in me to really look at teaching as a career path. I don't think I would have ever thought about doing that had I not had that opportunity. And I had some of the best role models in my life as faculty members that I was sure were put in my life to keep me moving ahead. But that wasn't, the easiest process to follow because there was a lot of correcting that had to be done. But through it all, that sense of encouragement was always there. So know that to all the students here, that most challenging dental hygiene faculty member that you're working with right now, that you go up on the clinic floor and you see that they're assigned in your little pod and you go, oh, hell. This is going to be a bad day. Know that they're probably the best faculty member that you could get. Don't worry if they like you or not. That's not what they're there to do. They're really helping you become that true professional. So I'm 19 years old. I'm done with my 2-year program at Northwestern, and I'm thinking, rocket. I'm 19. I've got my dental hygiene license. I'm going to practice in downtown Chicago, and life is going to be great. Well, that faculty member came up to me and said, Ann, you are 19 years old. You have to keep going to school. You can't stop now. So ironically, they asked 5 of us to go on for the degree completion program because it was brand new. So I went from the bottom 5 to the top 5, and that kind of blew my mind in a really big way, but it was one of the single best things I ever did for my career. Much later in life, as my life kind of moved around, I knew I always wanted that master's degree, but I wanted it from the right institution. And I was living in the South at that time, down in South Carolina. So it's amazing how over time you have this seed or this passion that's going to grow for you, and I knew I'd do the master's program. But once again, another angel came into my life and said, Ann, we are starting our first ever online master's program at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, and we want you to be our pilot student. That's when online education was brand new. So I had no idea what I was going to be facing. But it also was a really exciting opportunity to help UMKC really develop into one of the best online education programs. So know that your path is going to take lots of different twists and turns all along the way. So what I would share with you is that every step of your career, you're going to have lots of opportunities. But what's really important is that you're aware of them. And that's why I had you do the meditation process. When you're fearful and you're worried and you're stressed out, those opportunities that are surrounding you, you won't be able to hear them because your mind will be so busy on other things. The other thing is to make sure you're aware that you have angels all around you in those faculty members, future peers like Kathleen, who are going to be angels in your life, who are going to shove you forward on your career. So when they shove you, go. Because they'll be in your life to really help you create a really exciting career. But change can be enormously painful. It's just like those of you who might work out. I've learned to do kickboxing recently. I never knew how awesome it is as a chick to punch. Until my trainer said, Ann, quit thinking about how you throw the punch. That's my dental hygiene brain. She said, and just haul off and punch. Man, that's awesome. Guys know all about that. But it is a really awesome experience to go through that. Change is going to be painful, absolutely painful. But if you have trust and faith that an opportunity is coming in front of you, and if you reach and grasp it, and you reinvent yourself, it'll be another step or another link in your professional career. But you must use this sense of creative thinking. Whatever you thought your career was going to look like when you came in as a freshman, I would agree with Kathy's comments, throw it out. Because you've got to use this creative thought process. You've got to look at your opportunities. You have to throw out fear and worry and doubt so that all the answers about what you're supposed to do with your career come into play. And we're going to look at some of those opportunities and what's happening in dental hygiene now. I want you to get this feeling of the earth kind of shifting underneath you. There are a lot of evolutionary shifts going on right now, and these things started that whole process. You probably weren't even in school when the Surgeon General's report came out on oral health that started a lot of this. That was that first major national report that said we have a crisis here in this country. And then as Kathy talked about in her speech to you, the death of Diamante Driver. I had the opportunity to meet his mother. And that was quite an amazing experience because she thought his younger brother had worse dental disease than he did. And he had grown up as a child who was so used to pain in his mouth that that was his new norm. So he didn't complain. And then you all know, once that disease process hits so far, you don't really feel it anymore. So that was a huge process and a tragedy that sent oral health care in a new direction. So these major national reports are out there. Stakeholder groups start to get involved. I'll talk about Minnesota in a few minutes. 60 different groups outside of oral health care said, enough. Our people are not having access to good oral health care, and then health care reform hits us. And now we're starting to see foundations get involved, like the Kellogg Foundation and the Pew Foundation are really taking a strong interest in oral health care. You couldn't be in your profession at a better time. There is so much going on. I could be here with you 4 days to talk about all of that. So, very exciting. My world went upside down on Tuesday when the Kellogg report was released. Kellogg actually funded a research project to look at Alaska dental health aid therapists. This report was just released Tuesday. So you're hearing a lot about this for the first time, and it's going to be a whole lot more going on. So what they basically said was dental therapists do provide safe, competent, and appropriate care. The residents of Alaska say that access has been improved in their state. The patient satisfaction with dental therapists is very high, and the dental therapists are very well respected in their community. So you might be sitting there saying, and what does this have to do with me? Well, we're going to see in this country, likely, a combination of dental therapists and dental hygienists, as takes place in Australia and many countries around the world. So there's been a lot of pushback about whether or not therapy can become a reality in this country. So when Kellogg released the report on Tuesday, that was another shock wave in our industry saying the next domino has just fallen. So I gave you the website on that slide to be able to look that up and read that report. It's a number of pages thick, but know that this is a very big deal in our industry. They also released this report not too long ago, just about a year ago, that looked at what is the advanced dental hygiene practitioner? What does dental therapy look like? And what is this country likely going to be pursuing in terms of all these options that are in front of us? The Institute of Medicine is having 2 important studies that will soon be released, looking at an oral health initiative, access to oral health services. The Pew Report sent out their state report cards. Kathy, I don't remember. What did Michigan get? Do you remember? We'll have to look that up. Many states got an F by evaluating how well their state gives access to the citizens of their state. So the other important thing that's coming out is the GAO study is going to be looking at oral health access in mid-level providers. That study was commissioned by Congress to actually look at the feasibility and appropriateness of mid-level providers. So these 2 slides alone, guys, tells you that your careers, by the time you are out of school and well underway, you're likely going to have a new opportunity to look at expanding your scope into the restorative side of dentistry. I only wish I was in your seats, because you're going to have opportunities that I certainly never had. 2 state dental associations now have actually moved forward to support dental therapy models. Another workforce model, which many of you in Michigan will know about, is the Community Dental Health Coordinator. That is the American Dental Association version of a workforce model. The Michigan Dental Hygienists Association was on it, was able to stop the proliferation of CDHCs in Michigan. And whenever I talk to students or dental hygienists around the country, I talk about how active the Michigan Dental Hygienists Association got to protect your scope of practice against the CDHC. Without them, that could be happening now. That program has now moved to Pennsylvania, and they are not nearly as active as Michigan had been against the CDHC program. Kellogg and the American Association of Public Health Dentistry is forming a partnership to actually now look at the curriculum. I am an advisor to that group, and one purpose I have there is to say, why would you do a 2-year standalone dental therapy curriculum and not combine it with dental hygiene? That's exactly what Australia and New Zealand learned over a 25 or 30-year history, that it's crazy not to combine these 2 practitioners. So know and remember today that this was probably the first time you've heard this is coming down the pike. So what happened in Minnesota? Minnesota went through the biggest legislative battle ever, I think, in dentistry. So there are actually 2 dental therapy models going on today. There's one at the University of Minnesota Dental School, which is designed to be under the supervision of a dentist. And then there's an advanced dental therapist model, which is the dental hygiene piece. And that's an educational cooperative program between Metropolitan and Normandale. Those advanced dental therapists will actually have a collaborative agreement with their dentist and will be able to practice in a multitude of settings, but they're doing restorative, and they are doing extractions. And they are really taking a major leap forward. Students are in those programs now, and graduates will be out in the spring. So don't let anyone tell you this isn't happening, because we've got students in the program now. The next state that's likely coming down the path is Washington State. They have a little bit different of a program where they are looking at a 3-year type program at the baccalaureate level. So faculty who are in the room, I share with you today to be thinking along these lines. What is this going to mean to your educational institutions? So I'm going to buzz through some of these quickly for you, but with the idea, what I really want you to just absorb with your heart is what happened during healthcare reform and what does this mean to our profession. So Title VII went through lots of changes, but this is the first time in our history dental hygiene programs, faculty, and students are now eligible for these grants. This consumed my life. When we were going through healthcare reform, I spent a lot of time in the halls of Congress, and we worked diligently to get that wording in the healthcare reform legislation, and it's the first time in our history we've been successful at doing that. It's really exciting, very exciting. I can tell you that the American Dental Association and the American Association of Pediatric Dentistry fought hard to get us out. Now, it's pretty hilarious. We have one federal lobbyist on our side. The ADA at that time had 12. So it was pretty funny to be walking through the halls of Congress, and here's, little ADHA, battling like crazy people to keep this language in, and they had 12 lobbyists, all saying, if you pass this with the words dental hygiene in there, I'm going to lose my job. I will be fired if this goes through healthcare reform. Thankfully, we had a lot of Senate staff, House staff that were just getting the you-know-what kicked out of them, who just kind of stood back and said, so I'm supposed to care more about your job as a lobbyist than actually getting care to the millions of people who don't have access to care. So it was the most exhilarating time, I think, in my life when we heard that it passed and the dental hygiene provisions stayed in. So I'm going to share with you a little later about why that's so important and what your role is. So take a look at these grants and how much money is going into these facilities. Primary care is being expanded big time to the tune of $320 million. $17 million is going to community primary care training. Those of you who are interested in the geriatric delivery of care, a ton of money is going there, and schools of dentistry are included in this grant funding. So as you're sitting there thinking about your career, when you look at this slide, a lot of it is tons of money is going to community delivery systems. Tons. So there's a major career opportunity for you to look at. What was the movie that said, follow the money? Follow the money. Jerry Maguire. Very good. You win the prize. Follow the money. Look at where the federal government is putting a ton of money. Loan repayment coming up from the National Health Service Corps. National Health Service Corps, we met with them a couple months ago, and they literally said to me, Ann, we've got 236 jobs for dental hygienists that we can't fill. We have done everything possible that we can think of to reach out to hygienists, and we can't fill these positions. I said, well, you've done everything possible, but talk to us. So we posted it on our ADHA update and said, there's over 200 jobs available for hygienists with up to $50,000 in loan repayment. 175 jobs were filled in 5 days because hygienists were really having to look at, I had no idea. I didn't know this opportunity was out there. So that's our role at ADHA, is to connect you to opportunities. So those of you who will have an associate level program, you need at least 1 year of work experience. But if you are a baccalaureate level dental hygiene graduate, you can immediately find a position and enter the National Health Service Corps. So you'll be anywhere in the country. in underserved populations and settings. You could be in a community health center. You could be a dental hygienist in a hospital. You could be a dental hygienist in a public health setting. So that system of, I didn't know those opportunities are out there. Really take a look at the National Health Service Corps, and I've given you the website. They have job listings there for dental hygienists every day that they can't fill. So tuck that in the back of your mind as well. So let's take a quick look at what's happening with nursing. This report from the Institute of Medicine, when the Institute of Medicine does a study, it's a big deal because it's a federal government entity that looks at major issues. So they just released this study about looking at nursing. I love the title, Leading Change, Advancing Health. So as I click through the next slides, take a look at what this means to us. I'm going to give you a second just to read that slide. So if we lifted the word nurse out and put dental hygienists in, this is us, guys. Thank you. That was my reminder. So we've got to really be looking at watching what nursing has done over time. Look at this one. So they were actually able to have the Institute of Medicine recognize the world in which dental or nurses practice. This is the same environment you're in as well. These 4 recommendations came forward that, nurses should be able to practice to the full extent of their education and training. They should get higher levels of education. What I loved about this second bullet as well, improved education system that promotes seamless academic progression. If you want to move through associate degree to baccalaureate degree to master's degree, that should be a seamless process. Third bullet, full partners with physicians. Dental hygienists should be full partners with dentists. And that need for supervision needs to go away. I think that's an important pathway for us to continue to look at. But they also talk about working with other health professionals in redesigning the healthcare system in the U.S. We have to have better workforce planning, policy making, data collection, and improved information infrastructure. That is exactly what I talked to the ADHA House of Delegates about. When people talk about the dental hygiene profession and what we're all about, it has to come from us. It cannot come from the American Dental Association. They don't represent dental hygienists. So this nursing report is particularly important to us. So let's take a look at a few practice-related things. You may not know there are over 152,000 hygienists in the U.S. About 130,000 of them are actively practicing. But that 99% being female in our profession has to change because we have to be a more diverse profession, ethnically, gender, culturally. This profession has to get stronger through diversity. Almost every male hygienist that I talk to picks a non-traditional career path. And I find that so fascinating. So the average for a hygienist at this point to stay in the profession is about 18 years. But guess what? We're getting older. That mean age is 44. So we've got to keep this younger professional coming in and staying longer in their careers. We are white, primarily. That needs to change too. 92% of us are in private practice. So we've got this access to care crisis, but 92% of us are in private practice. That whole system's got to change. We have to really work on not socializing students to feel that private practice is their ultimate destination. About 26%, about a quarter of us, actually work with a specialty dentist as part of their career path. So one of the big practice trends is called direct access. This can take a lot of different forms. Could be collaborative practice, it could be PA 161, but the core issue is a dental hygienist is legally authorized to initiate care. They don't have to see the patient after the dentist has done an exam, and that's a clearly important part of your professionalization. Care can be administered outside the private dental office, and there's this collaborative role between dentists and hygienists, but that varies by state. So take a look at this. Here's all the states in which you can be a direct access provider, and Michigan is one of those. It took a lot of effort by MDHA to make that happen. And it's going to take a lot of effort by those of you in the room to keep that moving forward. Now, what do you notice about this slide? Southeast, that's a big deal. That area of the country has some of the most restrictive practice acts for dental hygienists. So we're watching how this progresses. In 2005, imagine this, we had 5 states. In 2010, or 2009, we had 10 states, and this is what we have now. So it's a huge progress. But what's important is that doesn't happen by accident. That happens because you get involved and you make that happen. So if you're a direct access provider, you might say, well, how do I get paid? What do I do there? The next biggest step is to look at direct reimbursement to you as a dental hygienist under the Medicaid system. So if you are able to do this in the state of Michigan, you would get a provider number, and you can be directly reimbursed through Medicaid. That is absolutely Michigan's next step. And you have to help them. You have to get involved and you have to help them. So 15 states, dental hygienists can be directly reimbursed by Medicaid. So you can see that the West, in both cases, has kind of been the leading front edge of a lot of this. But it's going to take that progression with your state Medicaid director, with your state dental director, which in the state of Michigan is a dental hygienist. So you might really be unaware that a lot of that is happening, but your opportunities in Michigan are huge. So this Michigan PA 161, how many of you have heard of that? Awesome. Awesome, awesome. So if you are a Michigan PA 161 provider, you can actually provide your full scope of dental hygiene services to dentally underserved populations. As Kathy said, you can actually own your own 161 practice. And you can access patients directly. They do not need to be a patient of record of a dentist. But you have a collaborative role with the dentist, which means they don't have to be there with you. They don't have to authorize your treatment, but you have to have a line of communication and working on emergency protocols if anything happens. But you've got to apply for this particular permit, and you've got to have a nonprofit tax ID number. That tells you you have to be dental hygiene business people. You got to have business background and know how to do this right. So I encourage you to talk with MDHA, learn how you can do this. Talk to your faculty. Faculty need to be really working on your curriculum to prepare your students to be ready to pursue this. It's one of the best opportunities I've seen across the U.S. So go, do it. So on the education side, these are the things we're a little worried about. There are growing number of dental hygiene education programs. We're seeing the for-profit world come into dental hygiene now, which is causing major fluctuations in the employment market. Where are the faculty going to come from? The curriculum is going to need to be changed. So the world of a faculty member is also going through this metamorphosis. You may not know we have 323 hygiene programs in this country now. When the Commission on Dental Accreditation met just a few months ago, they accredited 10 more. So we are out there saying this market is getting very flooded. 55 degree completion programs and 20 master's programs. The degree completion group is growing faster than any other group. That's because hygienists are wanting to continue their education. So let's talk a little bit about this. You live in Michigan. I spent a lot of time thinking about this, and we did a job market survey in 2009 to get a feel for what was going on. So, surprisingly, in 2009, 86% were still employed, but when we asked them these few questions about what's your perception about what's going on out there? Fewer job opportunities, difficulty finding employment, oversaturation of dental hygienists. Many of them felt that there's too many education programs in their regions. 57% of those who were searching jobs said there's not a lot of jobs. And about a quarter of them saying, I got to change my future plans to pursue other opportunities. So we knew, I get calls from dental hygienists all across the country saying, my hours have been cut, new grads are struggling to find employment, but the most exciting part of this whole environment is dental hygienists across the country are saying, it's time for me to take care of myself and to pursue opportunities that I've never thought about before. And I'm excited about my career. It's no longer, like Kathy said, about answering a want ad and finding a job immediately. You all are going to create our future. You're going to take all these opportunities that I talked about that the federal government is providing you, and you're going to blow it out. And this profession will look very different in 5 years than what it looks like today. So, how do we optimize this workforce? How are we going to really blow this career out? We have to be able, just like nursing, to provide your full extent of your education in any setting you choose to practice. That's choice. We have to be able to have greater mobility. I think Michigan is under NERB still. So we've got to really look at national licensure. So you have a choice to go anywhere you want, not just within the NERB states. You've got to work with the Michigan Dental Hygienists Association to say, gee, why can't I go work in a CVS pharmacy and open a dental hygiene clinic, just like nurses can do? Why can't I do that? Why can't I work in an OBGYN office? Why can't I work in a pediatrician's office? Why can't I? Remember the question I started with? What if? What if you literally were the dental hygienist in an OBGYN practice or in a pediatrician's office? In the state of Oregon, the first limited access permit dental hygienist has been hired by the state's largest pediatric practice, not pediatric dental, pediatric practice in the state of Oregon. Their practice sees 50% Medicaid. The owner of that practice said, it is a no-brainer. I'm going to build a dental unit in my pediatric practice. And she has a Medicaid provider number in Oregon, and she bills directly. And she created that job for herself. That is huge. So we have to shift our focus. Shift from, I have to be supervised because I'm really not smart enough, to collaboration. How do I collaborate with physicians, with nurses, with dentists, with dietitians, with pediatricians? You collaborate with them. No one needs to supervise you. You know what you're doing. You are graduates, soon to be, of some of the greatest dental hygiene programs in the country. You don't need to be supervised. Go do what you know how to do. Many students ask me about ADHP because that is one of the umbrella areas in which you're going to be recognized as an advanced practice dental hygienist. Those competencies are out there, they're being used. The Minnesota program for dental therapy used our ADHP competencies to design their program, so this is moving forward. And I'll share a very quick story with you about how this got started. In 2003, I'm in a cab with our president-elect at the time, Tammy Bird. And we had been at several workshops where everybody's saying, God, we need somebody between a hygienist and a dentist who can do some simple restorative procedures, can do simple extractions. We need somebody to do this. So I'm sitting in the back of the cab with Tammy, who's bright red hair, and she's a crazy-ass woman. And she says, Ann, we got to do a mid-level provider. We got to do it. And the councils are meeting in just a couple of weeks, and we need to charge these councils with coming up with policy that our House of Delegates can consider in 2004. And I went, oh, hell, here we go. So it came, a single concept like ADHP started in a cab in Las Vegas. So obviously it didn't stay there. So when Colleen Brickell enrolled her first students in the Advanced Dental Therapy program, which was built off of ADHP, I had that tearful moment of, this started in a cab. So as you're thinking about your career, a single thought can change the direction of your life. Because if that crazy redhead had not said, we need to do this, I don't know where we'd be. She knew it would be a challenge. She was also the dental hygienist in the state of South Carolina who went through a Federal Trade Commission case twice and won both times, where the South Carolina Dental Association and South Carolina Dental Boards tried to stop her from opening her own mobile dental program. So here's how smart Tammy was. Law changes to allow for general supervision in the state of South Carolina. She's like, cool. I can now practice under general supervision, so I'm just going to hire a dentist to supervise me. It's what she did. So that's a long story in and of itself, but the United States Federal Trade Commission watched her case, took on her case, and she won twice. So it really takes, it's going to take that entrepreneurial mind in that. Tammy doesn't think she can't do anything. She thinks she can do it all, and she can. But it's that spirit you've got to embrace to really change your career. So, your career. What if? Literally think in the space that you're sitting, opportunities are all around you. And they're just waiting for your awareness. But your vision and your beliefs have to grow. If you're fearful, if you're doubtful, if you're worrying about this, those answers can't come to you because they block all that energy that we talked about this morning. And ask yourself that question. What if you couldn't be afraid? What would you do? If you wiped fear out of your life, what would that look like? So here's some thoughts I wanted to share with you as I close that came out of dinner last night that I thought was quite a special evening for me. I love that first one. If there's anything we need to do better in dental hygiene education, it's to teach you what you can do, what you are capable of. These questions: who else could be my employer? If you're thinking about a dentist being your employer the rest of your career, who else might be your employer? And most importantly, could I employ myself? What if I'm my own business owner? From one end of the table, a hygienist who's really changing her life said, I had to reinvent myself. I didn't know what the opportunities were, but the biggest challenge I had was self-doubt. But somebody believed in me. Somebody told me to go back to school, and now I'm teaching part-time. It was quite a story. The words of encouragement they wanted to share with you is, if you ever say, I'm just a hygienist, Wendy Kirschbaum will kick your ass. I was afraid of her, and I was sitting near her. So that sense of stepping out, reach out, get that network that's in this room, take big risks. You have a huge skill set. You don't pick calculus. You are a healthcare provider. Be proud of that. It's our turn now to take this profession where it needs to go, but we have to take care of ourselves. You can't look at dentistry as being the body that's going to take care of you now, but absolutely don't give up. Keep moving forward. But the key to your career success is involvement. Get involved locally with your component, with MDHA and with us, because we're all one. Your dues, I'm actually changing my vocabulary now to not talk about dues. I talk about your investment. When you transition to membership, you're paying forward. You're helping yourself, and you are helping people who are sitting next to you. Because when we have more numbers, you're making my job a heck of a lot easier. And it's literally like linking your arms together to make this profession stronger. So, when people scratch their head and say, who the heck is ADHA, like Kathy said? At the federal level, that's what I do for you. That's what staff team of 37 people, as well as a board of trustees of 17 people, all those healthcare reform successes that we had, that's what those people do on your behalf every day. At the state level, MDHA has to work with the state government. I can't do that on a federal level. Kathy has to do that in the MDHA organization. Only MDHA and you hygienists in Michigan can change your Practice Act and can change your regulations. You must build coalitions of people. And you have to really work on public service announcements. People don't generally care too much what we say nationally, but they care on the state level. So what do you do at your component? The single most important thing at the component is community activism. If you are part of a component, throw Robert's rules out the window. Make it a meeting where you talk to each other and you have fun and you look at opportunities and you learn from one another. But community activism on the local level is absolutely paramount to making all of this work. So I'm not sure how we are on time, but I want to open myself up for any questions you want to ask me. Good, bad, indifferent? Can't see. Got one to the right and one here.
I just wanted to. Nope, that's not.
Hi, other room, by the way. We haven't forgotten
I don't want to. I just wanted to know if you go back to that website on the slide. I was trying to get it, but I couldn't.
the National Health Service Corps
Yes,
one.
please. Thank you.
I'll make sure that that gets emailed out so you can take a look at that. Job opportunities are great. Yes. Hi, Chris. Hey, State Dental Director. There she is.
And I do have some answers for you.
Great.
We got a C on the Pew Report, so we're right in the middle. We were not one of the 8 states that got an F, or there were 4 states that got an A. We're a C.
You were a C.
Part of it's because of community water fluoridation. We now, under Medicaid, pay for fluoride varnish in pediatric offices. And I can follow up about some conversations we've had with pediatric lobbyists regarding future settings for dental hygienists. So that's on our radar too.
Yay. Awesome.
I can also follow up on the PA 161 programs. We have a number of them in the state and they are growing. They are listed on our website. Our program is the one that, the oral health program is the program that I direct, is one that approves and sends it up to our director. Hopefully soon. We've been working on this for a number of years, but hopefully by December something will be released about Medicaid provider numbers for dental hygienists also. So that
State
should
number
happen.
16. Yeah,
Alright.
just get that done, Chris, in your spare time.
Yeah, all right.
Okay.
But I do have a student here who has.
Great.
I was just wondering, when you got your bachelor's degree, did you go and do clinical practice in a private office, or did you get your master's degree right away?
Fortunately, when I did degree completion for my bachelor's degree, we were in class Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I was able to practice as a dental hygienist on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturdays. So I could keep clinical skills while I was pursuing my baccalaureate degree. But it was many years before I got my master's degree. You know, I became a mom and, kind of lived, doing a lot of different things. At one point I was teaching, I was active in the state organization, and I was doing clinical practice, and I was working for a corporation. So I had 4 careers at once. Little psycho, but it ended up playing out pretty well. Marge, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. What is the possibility that all of the schools can get a copy of your PowerPoint so that we have all those websites and we
Oh
don't have
yeah,
to write
be
them all
glad
down?
to. Be glad
That'd
to
be great.
share it.
Thank you very much.
Be glad to. Yes, we have a question up here.
I'd like to know on a national level, what are we doing to deal with the issue of like cultural competence, considering that we are now a global country?
Right, great question. ADHA just appointed a diversity committee that just got underway this year. We literally asked this committee to look at our entire strategic plan and find every place that we should be taking a more proactive role in having better diversity in the profession, as well as increased diversity in the ADHA leadership pipeline. So please, any of you who are interested in getting involved in our diversity initiative, talk to me. I'll give you my card. We need as much support from all of you and involvement as possible. So thank you for that question, because I should have shared that within the group.
Hi.
Oh, God.
Hi.
I have a question about the NHSP. Does the bachelor's degree have to be in dental hygiene?
No.
Sweet.
No. If you are a baccalaureate level dental hygienist, you can go right in. And there's a lot of career advancement there. U.S. Public Health Service, becoming a commissioned corps officer. When you talk about job security, oh, I love you, Dan. Awesome. When you talk about job security, that's it. The benefits are great. You might not be making a private practice salary, but you'll have full benefits. You'll be able to move around the country. It's a wonderful opportunity.
Hi.
Hi.
Question. I was just
They're
wondering
mic hogs over here, so somebody's got to get a mic hog.
about the ADHP. Do you know how do most dentists feel about that? Like, are they for it? Are they against it?
Well, I think there's the organizational perspective of the ADA, which is very opposed. But I can't tell you the number of dentists that call my office and they're kind of secretly under the veil saying, how do I get one of them? So one of the things we talked about last night at dinner was corporate dentistry. Heartland, Midwest, we're really starting to see a lot of dental corporations, purchasing dental practices around the country. They're very interested because if they can make the whole system of dental delivery more effective and more efficient, that's the way that's going to go. So if you talk to the organization, you're going to get one answer, but a lot of private practice dentists are very interested in this. Hey.
I actually have two questions.
Sure.
First one being, you talked about the amount of dental hygiene programs in the country and the fact that it's not ADHA's responsibility to
Correct.
deal with that. How do we handle that with CODA to alleviate these programs from adding 10 this year, adding 10 next year? And then
Great question.
I'll ask my other one after that.
Okay. Our job on ADHA on a national level is to deal with CODA. We have to strongly advocate our concern about the dental hygiene marketplace. But the single best thing, remember I talked about community activism? If you're having more programs open, we actually developed a dental hygiene education database that can help you. It should be released next week on the website. Say you're in Michigan and you're worried about that. You'll click on Michigan and it'll pull up for you all your state higher education people that you've got to talk to about your concern. That is local activism at its finest. They don't care locally. If I call the Michigan Department of Higher Education and say, hi, I'm Ann Battrell and I'm really concerned. We're concerned about the number of hygiene programs in your state. They'll go, yeah, thanks, bye-bye. But if you call and you live here and you're a hygienist and you can talk about job market for you, they'll listen. So that's a great question, and as soon as that web database is up for you, I'll make sure you guys get it so you'll know exactly who to talk to and how to advocate in that way. Question 2?
Question 2 has to do with self-regulation. I'm curious as to the amount of states that currently have their own dental hygiene board of dentistry, and I want to know how Michigan can do the same.
Great question. What we try to say with self-reg is don't worry that it has to be your own board. It doesn't have to be your own board. What the most important thing is, you have control over your profession. So if that's a committee, if you have a dental hygiene committee who actually has the ability to propose rules or regulations to govern your profession, that's the core issue. So if you're a hygiene committee under the board, but you have that authority, you are self-regulating. Because state government budgets, you all know, you all live here, they're in the crapper. So the biggest thing a legislator is going to say to you is, how do we afford more boards? Because boards are really expensive. So you've got to be smart on an MDHA level and figure out how you're going to propose a regulatory change to control your profession without it costing a lot. If you can help a legislator make that case for you, it'll happen. But it's all got to be, how is the state budget going to be affected?
Hi, I have a question. What does it mean to really be a dental therapist, and will in the future, will they take our positions? Will they be a higher authority than a dental hygienist?
That's why I'm talking so loud and hard about combining the two, because dental therapists traditionally have a scope of practice that is restorative based, extraction based, but the last thing we want to see is hygiene melded underneath them. You know, where they begin to take a hygiene scope of practice under a dental therapy model. So we've really got to be working hard on saying, actually, this is just an expansion of the scope of practice of a dental hygienist. That's the reality. But we have a much bigger scope than dental therapy does right now. Their scope is narrower than ours. So we just need to add that to ours. And what's so awesome about Minnesota, those graduates will be dual licensed. They will have a license as a dental hygienist, and they will have a license as a dental therapist. Imagine your employability factor goes up when you have a new skill set. So that's going to be a fascinating one to watch. Are you coming to tell me we're done?
Oh, no, I'm coming to thank Anne for her wonderful words. I hope you all are seeing dental hygiene
Thank you.
in a different
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to thank, and my last slide should come up, but I want to thank Wendy for the ask and allowing me to be here. University of Michigan faculty and students that work so hard on this program. And I said last night, if I could have an Ann Gwozdek in every single state, I'd be a really happy woman. And I'm
checking her suitcase before she leaves for the airport to make sure Anne is not in it.
Right. But I also, as I leave the stage, I want to thank our corporate folks. I cannot tell you how ADHA's activities wouldn't stand a chance without corporate support. And for such great dental hygiene professionals leading the way in these corporations, please, at the exhibit time, stop by, say hello, thank them, talk to them about what they do, but without you guys, we would be nowhere. Thank you all very much.
You've been listening to a presentation from the University of Michigan School of Dentistry, which is dedicated to supporting open learning and open educational resources. This recording is licensed under the Creative Commons. It may be reused and redistributed for nonprofit use. Please attribute materials to the University of Michigan School of Dentistry and redistribute under this same license. For more information on how this and other University of Michigan School of Dentistry recordings may be used, visit www.dent.umich.edu/license.